Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. Across the table from me is Ted Coley. Hey, Ted Coley.
Hey, Fred Hunt.
How are you doing today?
Super.
I'm doing crappy. I'm just in a pissy mood all the way around. Reason being is we are taping this on Sunday afternoon. 15 seconds ago, we watched the Miami Dolphins beat the Cleveland Browns 30-24. There was 2 seconds left in regulation. The Browns kicker missed the field goal that would have won the game. The kicker ended the game 3 for 6 for field goals. Ted Coley, what is the field goal kicker's job to do in a football game?
Kick field goals?
Does he have any other jobs?
No.
No.
Not really.
He went 3 for 6. Our kicker, the Browns kicker on Wednesday, injured his leg or did something during the week in practice. We picked this guy up off the street. Now, as soon as this game is over, you're the coach of the Browns. What do?
Show him the door.
You walk in that locker room and say, you guys played well enough to win. I'm proud of you guys. There are no moral victories in the NFL. You played hard enough to win. You turn to that kicker that went 3 for 6, and say, you are back in the unemployment line. We will take our chances with the next guy on the street. Now, as unfair as that might be to that kicker, he'll get another job. You have to send a message to your team that you played good enough to win today. Ted, if you were Hugh Jackson, would you do the same thing? Would you cut the kicker and tell your team you played good enough to win today?
Oh yeah, because they played okay. I mean,
yeah. Well, they're playing the Dolphins 0-2, the Browns 0-2. You know.
Yeah, they did better than I thought they would.
Oh yeah. So, do you have a pen handy? Is there a pen laying around here somewhere? That's gonna be my prediction for the day. Hugh Jackson. Oh, Ted took off his headphones. He's gonna go get me a pen. My prediction for the day is Hugh Jackson will cut the Browns kicker before the next game. I don't even know the Browns kicker's name. Do you know his name?
Isn't it like Parky or something?
Parker. Okay. Do you think that Hugh Jackson will cut the kicker?
Well, what happened to our other kicker?
He got injured.
He got injured in practice.
Right. So I don't think he'll be back for like 4 to 6 weeks.
What's wrong with him?
Well, who knows? He's a kicker. Maybe he was, strained his groin putting on his tutu.
I think that's what's wrong with Joe Hayden. He hurt his groin.
Well,
I don't know how, but
so today is the 25th, and we will put this for next week. We will see if they cut him. I bet you that they do. My prediction: will cut kicker after going 3 for 6. So I'm still pissed off about that, and we try not to swear, so I won't keep swearing. But I'm mad because I'm trying to get my CDL, right? And today I slammed my hand in the bus hood.
On purpose?
Accidentally. It's not on purpose. But maybe I'm going to start slamming it on purpose.
Does that pen work, or is it like everything else around here that doesn't work?
Yeah, so
it does work?
What's that?
Does that pen work?
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't?
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it started to work and then it died. So, but the point of the story is that it wasn't the bus's fault. It wasn't the hood's fault. It was my own fault. I got my hand stuck in the little latch, and then the hood popped my hand, and it was like a blood blister, and there was blood everywhere, blood streaming down my arm.
I think Ken gave me this pen.
Oh, God, our old employer gave us the pen. Yeah, there's no. I put it in my hand and it doesn't work. That's old times. So yeah,
it probably didn't work when he gave it to me. Instead of throwing it out, he gave it to me.
Yeah, so I'm in a foul mood, and now we're gonna start Beacon of Speech. Do you want to know what my first topic is today?
Do you want me to try and get another pen?
No, that's all right. I'll fight through it.
Because I do have a pen that works.
No, that's all right. Our number one topic today: Donald Trump. I hate him. Okay, Ted? I hate him, and I am going to vote for Gary Johnson. Okay?
Now, did he do something recently that drew your ire?
No, I am mad, just like with my hand. Okay? You know whose fault it was that the hood smashed my hand and got blood all up and down my arm, it was my own fault. You know why I'm mad at Donald Trump? Because he was right. Okay? And it just makes me so mad. All these people in the... And I don't want to sound like Rush Limbaugh, but all these people in the liberal media, they can't figure it out. Okay? When Donald Trump went against that guy Khan, whose son died, and Donald Trump kept putting his foot in his mouth every day for a week. Oh, he's not apologizing. He's basically slandering the Khan family, right? Hillary Clinton won the election right there. She had it in the bag, right? And you know what happens? And I don't want Hillary to win either. I'm voting for Gary Johnson, okay? But 1 week ago, this is what happened. Donald Trump's down by 8 to 10 points, right? There was a bombing, and I even wrote it down. There was a bombing in New York City. Do you remember the New York City bombing about a week ago?
Yeah, even though it's very hard to keep track of these because...
Yeah, because every day there's a shooting now, okay? The media came out as soon as it happened, and they said, all indications are it's not terrorism. Well, there was a bombing in New York City. How do you know that there's not... How do you know it's not terrorism? How do you know? Well, we don't want it to be terrorism because the narrative is we want to elect Hillary Clinton, right? Within 12 hours of the bombing, Donald Trump came out, banged his fist on the table, said it was terrorism. What are we going to do? The attack happened Saturday night. Sunday morning, Donald Trump came out and said it is terrorism, right? I wrote it down. With 24 hours under his sleeve, the governor of New York, and I wrote this down so I wouldn't mess it up. Governor Cuomo said it could be domestic terrorism, but there is no way that it's overseas terrorism. Now, what does that have to do with Hillary Clinton? Cuomo and Hillary, they were both in office together. She was in New York. He's in New York. They all run in the same Democratic circles. Oh, Obama, let's not jump the gun. We don't have all the facts, but it doesn't appear to be terrorism, right? Donald Trump still pounding his hand on the table. It's terrorism, it's terrorism, it's terrorism, right? Day 3, they catch the guy. And what was his name? His name is Ahmed Khan Rahami, right?
Khan?
Yeah, Ahmed Khan Rahami. CNN reports 2 days later, they didn't even say they were looking for
It wasn't that guy's father, was it?
No, it wasn't. But all of a sudden, they said, now this guy has links to terrorism. 48 hours later, 12 hours after the fact, Trump is banging his head on terrorism. How did Trump, and I'm being serious with you because you're voting for Trump, how did Trump know that it was terrorism within 12 hours? It took 48 hours for CNN to figure it out. Okay? Because Trump was using common sense. There was a bombing in New York. He goes, the terrorists already attacked New York 4 times already. Chances are it's probably... Then the Democrats all came out, right? And they were like, no, because it didn't have anything to do with facts. It had to do with a narrative that they didn't want it to be terrorism.
Yeah.
And the same thing with CNN. Their narrative was they didn't want it to be terrorism. Right? After CNN reported that...
it's just like Benghazi.
Right.
Obvious terrorism, but since it's right before the election, oh no, this was just a protest that got out of hand.
Right. But yes... Exactly what you're saying. After CNN reported that they had caught the suspect, literally the Blaze, the right-wing, thing, after CNN caught the guy and announced his name was Ahmed Khan Rahami, Governor Cuomo said, yeah, we think it might be terrorism, after the guy is caught. Somehow... Donald Trump made up 8 to 10 points in 1 week. The left-wing media can't figure out how is Trump in the game. he is in the game because of you, not because of you. I mean, the left. Let me restate it. The left-wing media.
Well, it could be because of us, because of the support.
Well, yeah.
The support of this show. Well, at least half of it.
Basically, people aren't voting for Trump. They're protesting the Democrats. I mean, that's all there is. They're protesting the Hillarys of the world. They're protesting the Obamas of the world. They're protesting the Cuomos of the world. They don't believe in Gary Johnson like I do. Right? And again,
I'm just laughing because Gary Johnson's kind of goofy.
Yes, he is. He is. And they can't figure out how is Trump doing so well because of, and I'm not saying people like you, they shoot themselves in the foot. People in Middle America, they like Trump because he came out and said, I think it's terrorism. He speaks his mind, right? He's not politically correct. If he's an idiot, he's an idiot. If he's smart, he's smart, right? I still think that Trump is an idiot. But he, in this case, again, he was right. Nobody gave him credit for being right because he's an idiot. Just because he's an idiot doesn't make him not right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I give credit to Ted because, again, Ted keeps saying he's voting for Trump. Ted, if you say I am voting for Trump because of what you just stated, that is rational. Because in your head you have two choices. Do you want the guys who advance their own agenda or do you want the idiot? You know, do you want the giant douche or the turd sandwich? You know, the old South Park episode. And I did not see the internet. You know how many articles I saw this week that said Trump was right? Coming from CNN, Daily Beast, USA Today. You know how many I saw?
Zero.
Because Trump being right doesn't fit their narrative. Now, again, the blaze was all over Governor Cuomo. You know, they're like, oh, yeah, he was forced to apologize, you know, and say, oh, yeah, I guess it was... I wrote it down. The headline was...
So is the blaze, is that Glenn Beck's?
That's Glenn Beck's right wing. And the headline was, Governor Cuomo forced to walk back statements. And again, the blaze doesn't like Trump either. I think they feel like I do, right? They wish that there was a, you know, more popular third option. But they were like, oh no, we're happy just saying Governor Cuomo was flat out wrong. We'll cover his apology. Hillary wasn't out there apologizing. Granted, in her case, she was sick, right? But let me ask you, Ted, because I'm stepping on you again. I apologize. Basically, what I summed up, is that why you like Trump?
Why? Because he just speaks his mind?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. I mean, he doesn't play the game, you know. I mean, I'm voting for him, but I'll admit he's going to be a wild card. I mean, you don't know what he's going to do.
No.
But I figure I have a pretty good idea of what Hillary's going to do, and I don't support it, so you got to go with the person who at least is going to give you a chance of doing what you want them to do.
And I have a $10 bill in my wallet. I tell you to vote for Gary Johnson, you're still not going to vote for him, right?
How much? Well, I mean, I'm not going to knock you for voting for Gary Johnson, but it's going to be one of two people that wins.
Yeah.
And Gary Johnson isn't one of them.
Yeah.
But I don't, like I said, I don't blame you for voting for somebody else, but I just know he's not going to win.
It is illegal to buy your vote, so I just wanted to let you know that I was not going to give you $10. I do not have it in my wallet. That would be voter
fraud.
Yeah, voter fraud. So I was using hyperbole. I did not legitimately going to give... Oh, but anyhow, So back to what you were saying. Day 3, Obama was still saying no terrorism. After they caught the guy, he would not say international terrorism. He said an act of whatever. An act of terror. It's like, you know what? That's why people are mad. You won't call it what it is.
What did he call it? Like dumpster violence or something?
I don't even know.
Because that bomb was in a dumpster, wasn't it?
I believe it was, yeah. But like you said, there's so many different things. And then there was the mall shooting in the middle of the week. And that guy, he's linked over to international terrorism. And there's another guy who is linked to ISIS this week. But the whole thing is that because the guy in charge will not call it Muslim extremism, he wants to spin it. And again, Ted, we said it like on Beacon of Speech number 5. I don't understand what's so hard to say Muslim extremism. You get some guy who bombs an abortion clinic, and he says that they're killing babies. You say it's Christian extremism.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't hesitate to do that.
Yeah, and so I don't understand. You call it Muslim extremism, you call it Christian extremism. I don't understand what the difference is. You just call it what it is. But then the right-wing people are like, oh, no, don't call it Christian extremism either. You can't go out and kill the abortion doctors. Right? So I don't understand why Obama doesn't take the opportunity to say, yes, there's religious extremism all over the world. Muslim extremism is a problem in first world countries, and Christian extremism is a problem once in a while too. They don't want to hear that, but call it what it is. Now, if I was on my libertarian sites that I was on, they'd be like, yes. They'd be like, you're right. But you know how many people think I'm right? How many libertarianism is? 5% of the population think I'm right.
I saw they were showing the different, the battleground states.
Right.
And I forget what state, I think it might be Pennsylvania, that Gary Johnson's doing pretty well in. Yeah, he's got like 14%.
Yeah, they say he got 14, and they said there was some state like Utah where it was like Trump was 32%, Gary Johnson was up to 25%, and Hillary was like down to 20. They said he was actually polling in second.
Oh, wow.
But it was somewhere with like Utah. How many electoral votes is that? 5?
Yeah, it can't be.
It literally does not matter. I mean, he's running in second in one state. It's like, yeah, who cares? But when places like CNN can't figure it out, it's because they think their crap doesn't stink. The whole reason that Trump is even in this is because of the way they cover stuff like Muslim extreme terrorism. Muslim extremism. I'm sorry, the whole room went quiet. It was like crickets.
No, I think they can figure it out. I think CNN and all those, MSNBC, they know what's going on.
Yeah, but
they just have an agenda. They just shape everything.
Yeah.
They know what's happening.
So, we're talking about Gary Johnson, and I already beat this into the ground, and Trump sucks the air out of the room. One of my favorite bands of all time, you've never heard of him either, or them either. They're called No Means No. They're a punk band from Canada. Are you familiar with No Means No?
No, I think I've heard you mention them before.
Nobody's ever heard of them. They announced last night that they are retiring. They started, when they were in college, they were working at the dorm or whatever, wherever they were working, in Vancouver, Canada, and they started a little punk band called No Means No. It was them, and then they added a third. It was a 3-piece punk band. And for 25 years, they released, 9, 10 albums, live albums, a couple of singles. They had their songs on compilations. They were a great punk band, okay? Their last proper album came out in 2006. And then they went on hiatus. And then they did their side project. And then they did another side project. And they produced another band. And then they released an EP. But since 2006, they haven't released an album. Their hiatus turned into a longer hiatus, and their long hiatus turned into retirement. They have not released a proper album in 10 years. So they've been around, but not really. Right? And I am very sad, but I don't actively miss them because they haven't really been around for 10 years. I saw them on their 2006 tour, and then they kind of been on the shelf. Now,
you actually went to see them?
I went to their show, and it was amazing. And I'm going to write an article about it tomorrow. It was at the Beachland Ballroom, capacity like 800 on the east side of Cleveland. And they are awesome. And I'm going to write a story for Beacon of Speech on them this week, talking about the legacy of No Means No, right? Because nobody's ever heard of them. It was like...
And when did you say they started?
83?
Oh, wow.
They said that they were around for 35 years. If you do the math, I guess it would be 81.
Wow.
So they were right after the Dead Kennedys. But their first album, you know, they released in Vancouver, Canada when they were like 19, 20 years old. You know what I mean? So it's not like they had a distribution network. They eventually signed with Alternative Tentacles, who, you know, they were the label of the Dead Kennedys. That's how I heard of them, because they were on the same label as Alice Donut and Dead Kennedys, right? They went to their own labels, you know, 10, 15 years ago. The point of the story is that they were awesome. Nobody heard of them. When I saw them in 2006, I couldn't even buy their album in Cleveland. I had to do the mail order. No stores in Cleveland carried No Means No. Now, maybe there was a store in Cleveland that I didn't go to, but I went to like 6 different stores looking for No Means No. It was nowhere. I had to see them promote their album that I could not buy. Don't forget, this is before, you know, you get everything on the internet, right? They didn't release it straight to the internet. Now, what does that have to do with Ted Coley? What does No Means No retiring this week have to do with Ted Coley?
I have no idea.
No Means No did not get rich. I have a feeling, now, I don't have them to interview, but I read a separate story that some punk bands in Canada were able to subsidize their income through art grants. You know, because they're artists, right? So I don't know if No Means No made that much money on their records. I think part of their income was supplemented through the Canadian government. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I'm speculating that they were not able to make ends meet just being a punk band. Okay? They might have even had day jobs, just like Anvil. Anvil had day jobs until the Anvil movie came out. The reason I bring this up is last year, Glenn Frey died, right? And Ted's shaking his head angrily because he knows where I'm going with this. Glenn Frey died, and Don Henley said, within a month, he said, that's the end of the Eagles. And it made sense. They only got back together because of the money, right? They did not get back together because they loved each other.
Yeah.
And I respected the Eagles because they told me, Fred Hunt, I heard their press conference. We got back together for the money. And then they laughed. Is that true?
Yeah.
The Hell Freezes Over tour. It was the first time, and I remember bitching about this at work. It was the first time a band was charging $100 plus to go see them. Before that, you know, it was like a magic number. You know, the best seats to see like Pink Floyd was $79.90 or you know, whatever it was. The Eagles came back, they said, we think the business model dictates that people will pay over $100. Those tickets were $100, $200 a piece, Hell Freezes Over tour. All of a sudden, all these classic rock bands, Pink Floyd's like, we can charge more. Rolling Stones, we can charge more. They were all over, but it was the Eagles who broke that $100 plateau point. When I went to go see No Means No in 2000, what was Hell Freezes Over, 84?
Oh, no, I think it was 94.
94, I'm sorry. 94. They broke the $100 mark. I went to go see No Means No in 2006. The tickets were $16 for a band that had been around for 25 years. Okay? They did not gouge their... Now, maybe secretly, if the guys from No Means No are listening, maybe deep in their heads, they're like, we wanted to gouge you, but nobody would pay. I don't think they did think that way. Maybe they did. But they didn't. Okay? They kept plugging away. They're still singing their hits. In 2006, they were promoting their new album, which they didn't have to do, and they were beating the hell out of it. I mean, they were on top of their game. They sounded great, and they were, for an old punk band, they were on their game. All right? This, 2 weeks ago, I read in Rolling Stone magazine, Timothy B. Schmidt, is that his name?
Yeah, the bass player.
They said, well, now that the Eagles are dead, what are you doing with your time? And he goes, well, why would you say that the Eagles are dead? And they said, well, Glenn Frey died. And he goes, well, I don't think I'm revealing too much, but Glenn Frey has a son, and we've been in negotiations to maybe bring the Eagles back in the future. Nothing is solid. Nothing's written in stone. Now, I'm asking you, Ted Coley, as a huge Eagles fan, as much of a No Means No fan as I am, you were that Eagles fan. Do you want to see the Eagles continue with Glenn Frey's son?
No. Absolutely no.
Why?
Now, they're not gonna offer Don Felder? They're not gonna have him come back?
No, it would be the incarnation of the Eagles right before Glenn Frey died, and then it would just be Glenn Frey's son stepping in for whatever.
Yeah, I have absolutely no interest in that.
Okay.
That I'll be honest with you, that makes me angry.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, Ted, because
I mean, it's just at this point, it's money. Period. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
And people might say, well, what's wrong with that? It's like, well, why don't I just go worship a corporation then?
Yeah.
Because there's no difference. I mean, at least, it used to seem that music at least tried to stand for something.
Yeah.
Now it's like they don't even make an attempt to stand for anything other than how much money can I make.
And that's why I respect No Means No.
Which is fine, but I can find that anywhere.
Yes. You can listen to corporate radio anywhere you like. And that's why I'm sad because No Means No is gone, but I understand why they stopped. If you can't make a living at it, at some point, those guys are in their 50s.
Now, will Don Henley be paying Glenn Frey's son the same money that Glenn Frey was making?
Let's put it this way.
That would be interesting to see, because now Glenn Frey's son was not a founding member.
Right. And
why doesn't Don Henley just get an illegal alien to fill in for Glenn Frey so he can pay him like 10 cents an hour?
Me and you talked about this on the air, but I want to
so he can make even more money.
I want to flesh this out, okay? Part of the reason the Eagles broke up, and me and you have talked about this.
Don Henley can get an undocumented guitarist.
When the Eagles broke up, right? The business model was each guy basically gets a fifth, more or less. Okay? When the Eagles got back together in the Hell Freezes Over tour, they redid it where Henley and Glenn Frey made 50%, and then the rest of the band and the backup players, because they didn't tour, just the 5 of them. They had backup singers. They had, the backup guitarist. I remember seeing, after the Hell Freezes Over tour, I think there were 11 people on stage. Just like when Fleetwood Mac tours, it's not just the 4 of them anymore. I think they got a backup drummer, because Mick Fleetwood can't hit it anymore. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. Lindsey Buckingham looks like he can still play. He doesn't need some help. But Mick Fleetwood is not hitting those notes anymore. Okay? So it's the same thing with the Eagles. I don't know who the weak link is. I don't know what it is, but the business model was 2 guy gets half, everybody else gets half. Is that more or less true?
I don't know. You know more about that than I do.
Well, that's what I understood. Joe Walsh said, I'm grateful to be in the Eagles. I love those guys. They saved me from alcoholism, more or less, right? And I'm paraphrasing. Timothy B. Schmidt said, I'm making more money here than I'm making anywhere else. So I'm signed up. Don Felder, was that his name?
Yeah.
He was so angry that after the Hell Freezes Over tour got back together, he saw his paycheck and they kicked him back out, correct?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. And Glenn Fry said, don't let the door hit you in the rear. If you don't like how much money you're making, there's the door.
Well, basically, Don Felder thought it should be split evenly.
And it was not. That was 100% fact. Okay? I don't know if it's half or it was 64. I don't know how it was, but it wasn't each one of us get a fifth. That changed after Hell Freezes Over. So he was very bitter about it. He was bitter about it on the Eagles movie.
So now that Glenn Fry is out of the way, will Don Henley get 50% and everybody else gets 50%?
Well, but that's what I don't know. And that's the point. Why keep going? Like you said, if it's a corporation, maybe he is. Maybe Glenn Fry's son isn't making any money singing karaoke at the bar, right? And Don Henley's like, I'd like to go on, but I'm going to give you this crappy deal. And he's like, I want the same deal as my dad. And then the next thing you know, those two are fighting. You see what I'm saying?
See, another thing that I don't understand, basically, when they got back together, Don Henley and Glenn Fry's argument was, we are the Eagles.
Yes.
Now that Glenn Fry is dead, what is Don Henley's argument going to be? I'm the Eagles? It's like, well, why don't you just go solo then?
Right. Well,
if those other guys don't matter, then why are you with them?
Right.
You just continue your solo career.
Right. And like I said, Ted...
He wants to have it both ways. He wants to make Eagles money, but he's basically doing a solo tour now.
Right. And Ted, me and you talk about the Eagles all the time because it's fascinating as hell. Right? At least to me. Okay, because the Eagles are one of the examples of bands who are like, are they more businessmen or are they more musicians? You cannot, and I hate to keep dragging No Means No back into this because, you're probably laughing. No Means No, I don't think, they were 99% band, 1% businessmen. You know what I mean? And the Eagles, it's like, well, where is that line? Are they 60% businessmen, 40%? You see what I'm saying? Now, granted, when they first left Pat Benatar, they were musicians. They were making no money as Pat Benatar's backup band. Is that correct?
Who's that?
The Eagles.
Oh, they were. It wasn't.
Oh, no, Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah.
I said Pat Benatar. They were Linda Ronstadt's backup band. They were making literally no money. Back then, they were 100% musicians. Well, they were like, we're going to try being a band and making our own money. We're trying. So at that point, they were still mostly musicians. Ted is laughing.
Nah, it's just so funny how, I don't know.
And the reason I bring up the Eagles is because it couldn't be more opposite. I read that interview last week with Timothy B. Schmidt. I'm not going back to 1997. Last week I read it. And then one of my favorite bands breaks up yesterday. I mean, there couldn't be a bigger dichotomy. Now, I'm not saying you should like No Means No, because me and you, take different paths. Everybody's different. I'm just saying your band became a corporation, and my band basically, they're going to die dirt poor. Okay, if they're listening to this, they're probably like, well, you know what, jerk, you're going to die dirt poor doing Beacon of Speech. Okay, but they probably hate me, but I love them. I'll go home and listen to the old No Means No CD today. I'll probably go listen to 0 + 2 = 1.
So I just want you to know ahead of time that if our show ever becomes a big money generator and you die, I'm going to continue the show with your son.
Well, just so you know, my son will not continue the show with you because he thinks that we talk too long. He says we need to cut the show down to 2 to 3 minutes. And then, like, say we want to talk about the Eagles, we say what we have to say in 3 minutes, and then we move on. So he would probably throw a coup on you.
All right, well, if he doesn't want to do it, then I'll ask Don Felder.
But now that we're talking about the Eagles and no means no, I feel much better. So, talking about radio and our show, which, again, I sent something else in this week that will not be heard from. I'm trying a new tactic. I am going to, and I'm saying this out loud, but I'm telling you, I am going to start, instead of like making the pitch to program directors, I'm going to start making pitches to salesmen, saying, listen, if I can find my own sponsor, see what your shirt says? Mm-hmm. That's who I have in mind. If I can find my own sponsor, will you put us on the air? So that's my next plan. So don't say it out loud because I'm not giving them free publicity. But that's the next plan, is going through there. But the point of the story is talking about radio shows. Trivisonno. Mike Trivisonno is the #1 talk radio personality in Cleveland, according to
himself.
Now, have you ever seen... I remember looking at Nielsen ratings for the TV on TV, right? Do you ever remember radio ratings in the newspaper?
Do I remember radio ratings, being
published in
the newspaper? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't ever remember it either. I remember Gary D. when I was a kid. I'm #1. And at the same time, Pete Franklin would come on at a different time slot and say, I'm #1, right? As far back as I can remember, I have never read Cleveland ratings where it said, this guy is #1 in Cleveland. I have read where, I read maybe 10 years ago, and they would rank the stations. And they would put in the Plain Dealer, and the #1 station was WJAR. And I'm like, how is the #1 station in Cleveland a country station? And before that, for 25 years, it was WMMS. But when WMMS was #1, Pete Franklin was screaming, I'm #1. How in the world can you be #1 if WMMS... You see what I'm saying? Well, what they're doing is they're screaming, I'm #1 in my demographic. I'm #1 in my time slot, right? But I only saw stations. As a matter of fact, in the last year, I've heard Trivisonno say, I have had 30 consecutive rating books where I was #1. Well, what's a ratings book? Well, it's like a quarter, okay? At the same time, I hear Tony Rizzo saying, I'm #1 on WKNR in the morning, okay? I know they're both not #1. Okay, so I don't know if Tony Rizzo means that he's #1 in the mornings, if he means that Trivisonno's lying. I don't know if Trivisonno means between 3 and 7. He's #1 and he's lying. I don't know.
They must be talking about their time slot.
Right. And then, for all I know, maybe it's not their time slot. Maybe Tony Rizzo is #1 for 18 to 34-year-olds, and Trivisonno is from 34 to death. You see what I'm saying? So, but they don't say, I'm #1, and then, they got the disclaimer. White males, 18 to 34. On the bottom. They don't say that. They're just big blowhards. Trivisonno, though.
Albinos, ages 18 to 34.
Yeah, albinos, 18 to 34. Trivisonno came out this week, and if you're not in Cleveland, you probably heard Triv. Because Triv can be heard in 38 states and half of Canada once the sun goes down, right? And that's at 5 o'clock in the evenings. So if you're listening to WTAM, which is possible, after dark in Lincoln, Nebraska, you've heard Trivisonno. Trivisonno said on the air, if Hillary Clinton wins, I will know that this country is too messed up. It will be messed up beyond recognition. I am leaving Radio. If Hillary Clinton wins.
Now, did you say that that makes you want to vote for
That
Hillary?
makes me want to vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
And again, all these idiots like Rosie O'Donnell. I hate Rosie O'Donnell. I don't think she's very funny. I don't think she ever was very funny. Okay? She comes out and she goes, if Trump wins, I'm going to leave America. Well, that makes me want to vote for Trump. Triv says, if Hillary wins, I'm leaving America. It makes me want to vote for Hillary. A lot of these people, like Tom Hanks. We'll use Tom Hanks. He's the generic nice guy that we use. Tom Hanks comes out. He goes, you know what? You really should vote for Donald Trump. I said, you know what? Tom Hanks is a nice guy. Maybe I do want to vote for him. But he didn't
say that.
No. Tom Hanks didn't say anything. Because he's a nice guy and he doesn't want to, get in the middle of it. If Tom Hanks said, I want to vote for Trump, I might at least listen to his argument. Right? But it's mostly people that I can't stand coming out saying, if this guy, and again, who's another one? Lena Dunham. Right? Everybody thinks that her show Girls was great. I watched a couple episodes. I thought it was horrible. Right? Who do I love? Who I would take credence on? Okay, Kevin Smith comes out. I love Kevin Smith. He made an independent movie. I made an independent movie. If he came out and said who he was voting for, I might be like, what does Kevin Smith have to say? Right? But Kevin Smith hasn't come out and said it either. It's always idiots.
Yeah.
Saying, and I'm like, yeah, I want you to leave the country. Please leave the country.
Yeah, they in their minds, they're threatening people.
Yeah. I want Lena Dunham, because I'm still not sure why she's popular.
I'm not even sure who that is. I've heard that name, and I still couldn't pick her out of a lineup.
She did the HBO show Girls.
Yeah, see.
And they said when she did it, it was revolutionary because it was like, instead of four guys getting together being raunchy, it was like girls getting together being raunchy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not that realistic or good. But they're like, but it's a girl doing it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not that good. Oh, you didn't... well... And that's why I go back to the Kevin Smith analogy. I don't know who Kevin Smith is voting for. Ted's shaking his head.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about celebrities...
So did Trivisonno say he's gonna leave radio, right?
Yeah, he's just leaving radio.
He's not leaving the country.
He said he's staying in the country. He's basically going to sit in his house and play online poker or play poker for the rest of his life. Because he doesn't need the aggravation. Like, again, just like we talk about the Amigos, right?
Well, if Hillary's elected, how is that going to affect his radio show?
It affects everything.
What I'm saying, it makes more sense, even though I can't stand the people, it makes more sense for somebody to say I'm going to leave the country than I'm going to leave my radio show.
Yeah, I'm going to quit. Okay, well, then quit. I guess his whole thing is he doesn't want the aggravation. He said that he will know that Americans are so stupid that he can't deal with them anymore. If they vote for Hillary, because she's a criminal. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Trivisonno, again, just because he's an idiot doesn't make him wrong. When he says Hillary's a criminal, she is a criminal. But then don't go out and say, I'm going to quit my job. Because that affects me. You know what, Triv? Good, quit your job. I hope Hillary does win, and you quit your... I hope there's a way that Trump wins and Hillary wins. Everybody leaves the country and quits their jobs.
That reminds me, years ago, me and my friends were playing the lottery.
Right.
And I said, man, if I get those 6 numbers, I'm quitting my job. Yeah. And my one friend said, if I get 1 number, I'm quitting my job.
Yeah, you know what? That's how I feel about the bus today. I'm showing Ted my hand because I slammed my hand in the bus hood today. So anyhow, talking about celebrities, okay? There was huge celebrity news, and you know how I found out about it? I found about it on CNN. What is the huge celebrity news of the week, Ted? Now, we're not TMZ, so we're going to kind of gloss over this.
Celebrity news of the week? I think I might actually know this. Don't tell me. Is it Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie?
Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Now, I'm going to break this down, and I'm going to sound like the biggest jerk that ever lived, okay? But that's why we have Beacon of Speech for, okay? Do I like Brad Pitt?
I would guess no.
You are wrong.
You do
I actually like Brad Pitt. Why do I like Brad Pitt? When he was younger, he made some movies where he was really good. And if you ever watched a movie...
I've heard he's a good actor. I really don't... I really haven't seen very many things with him in it. For whatever reason.
Well, that's where I'm going with this, okay? I used to like Brad Pitt, okay? I liked him in 12... When I saw him in 12 Monkeys, it was one of the best acting jobs I ever saw. He plays a mental patient, and he's doing this, and I'm flailing my arms while I'm showing Ted. In 12 Monkeys, it was like Brad Pitt was possessed by a real crazy person. Okay, now some people would argue Brad Pitt, really is a crazy person. But he was excellent in that. He was excellent in Interview with a Vampire. I didn't like Tom Cruise in that, but I liked Brad Pitt in that. Okay, Brad Pitt was really good in that. You ever watch Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13? Even though they were remakes, I liked George Clooney and Brad Pitt. They had an old Frank Sinatra vibe to them. That they were cool guys. And I like Brad Pitt. Okay? Angelina Jolie, okay? I saw her in a movie where she was a mental patient. I think the movie was Girl Interrupted.
Yeah.
She was really good in that. And she was hot. Right? As they became more and more popular, you could tell at one time she was a great actress and he was a great actor. In my head. Okay? They met each other, and all of a sudden, they thought that they were God's incarnate. Okay? I can't remember anything. I remember writing a review on... I did it on Rotten Tomatoes for World War Z, and I said that was garbage. Remember when, and I remember writing it on Rotten Tomatoes, remember when Brad Pitt was a good actor. Once he married Angelina Jolie, all of a sudden, they didn't care about acting. They wanted to save the world. They were this acting royalty. Well, guess what? You're actors. All of a sudden, they were these great people making $20 million a movie, and they weren't great actors anymore. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to be a UN diplomat. That sounds like more fun. And Brad Pitt's like, well, I'm going to take care of my 6 kids that I adopted. And that's great. That's great that he wants to be a good dad. Okay? But they weren't great actors anymore. And once they got together, they just kind of made me sick. Right? And I'm like, ugh. Now, everybody is like, it's horrible, right? And I'm like, well, it's not horrible. It's what both those people are. They're both horrible people. Okay? And I'm not the first one to say that.
Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie?
I stole that from Chelsea Handler. As soon as they announced they were getting a divorce, Chelsea Handler came out. And she said within 24 hours, she said they're both horrible people because all these people are like, love is dead, love is dead. If they can't make it, I can't make it. It's like, that's not it at all. They were both egomaniacs who got married. Right? And I'm like, I'm not sad at all. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit happy. Now, I don't want anybody to get divorced, right? But maybe Brad Pitt will start making good movies again. Maybe Brad Pitt will pretend like he's an actor again instead of saying, oh, I know all about the crisis in Darfur. I'm like, you don't know crap about crap. You're an actor, okay? And your wife don't know crap about crap. You know who she reminds me of? Angelina Jolie reminds me of Lady Di, or Princess Di, who was really hot and got bored and would show up at these places for like a week and say, you guys should do something, and then you're going out banging these hot guys at night. You were not in it like Mother Teresa was. You know what? You all should fix this problem while I'm talking about it. making $20 million a movie, just like Princess Di was going home just cashing paychecks for being Princess Di.
Well, you know, and some people might argue, well, you're looking at it the wrong way. Princess Di is a larger-than-life person who's bringing attention to these problems.
Right. But she didn't live it. She's like, hey, in case you didn't know, there's people starving in Darfur. Well, guess what? You have $20 million, you know, $20 million a movie. I'm getting by paycheck to paycheck. I'm worried about me instead of the people in Darfur. Now, I'm not saying me in general. I'm just saying people in general. Mm-hmm. They don't see that. They're like, why aren't you doing something about Darfur? Well, guess what? You have lots of spare time. How about, in your spare time, why don't you make a home in Darfur? 6 months a year, you're doing movies. 6 months a year, you're investing your time into Darfur. Well, that's a crap hole. I don't want to live there.
Well, it's just like, you know, I got a call from, you know, Rudy Giuliani.
Right.
You know, it's obviously a recorded message, but he's asking for me to donate money to Trump's campaign.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, here's a guy who says he's worth, what, $10 billion or whatever,
yeah,
and he needs my money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, what I think, I'm like, you know what, that's how these guys end up with $10 billion. They get everybody else to support them.
And I'm gonna say this. Bill Gates, he made $100 billion or whatever he's made. He lives it. He's not preachy like Angelina Jolie. They said they're in Africa like 2 months a year. You know what I mean? Now maybe I'm wrong, but he seems to live it. You see what I'm saying? He's not doing it for a photo op, for awareness. You know what I mean? I think Bill Gates realizes that people know that Africa's a mess, and he's like, I'm going to plunge my money into it. When people ask me, I'm going to tell them, but I'm not going to do it and then jet off to the Swiss Alps for 3 weeks. Now, maybe he does, but there seems to be a big difference between them, and like I said, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie both seem like the look at me people. You know what I mean? We care. We're not doing anything about it, but we care. Well, I care about it too, but not enough to do anything about it. Okay? Because I'm a horrible person, okay? But Chelsea Handler, she nailed it. She said they're both horrible people. They're both popular for being beautiful people. You know how many women love Brad Pitt? He was sexiest man alive like 3 times. And Angelina Jolie, she was beautiful. They are not. They're, you know, it's 2 beautiful people getting together. They're not popular because of what they have to think about Darfur. Ted's shaking his head. Now, another thing, and this is where I'm even a bigger jerk than what I was before. Angelina Jolie, is she still hot? Yes or no? Ted, you're a guy.
I haven't seen her in a long time.
The answer is...
I would have to guess no by this time.
The answer is she's still hot.
Is she?
But, okay, it's the whole, she's not as hot as she used to be. When she was younger, she seemed real. You know what I mean? She didn't have the plastic in her. You know what I mean? Now, because of the double mastectomy, which we don't see, I don't see her naked. What she does, and I don't take it the wrong way, but what she does, part of it is artificial. She doesn't go out like, you know, some of the people and say, I'm not wearing my fake breasts. You know what I mean? Now, I don't blame her for wearing fake breasts. That's fine. I'm just saying how much of Angelina Jolie now is real. I don't know if she's had plastic surgery. I don't know if she's... And I'm talking about her face at this point. I don't know how much is... You know, like Pamela Anderson. Does she even look like the same person anymore? No. Jenny McCarthy. Doesn't even look like the same person anymore. Right? I don't know how much work Angelina Jolie has had. Now, you know about the double mastectomy. Yeah. And she was courageous to share that. Right? But if Brad Pitt is as shallow as we think he is, you know, he's like thinking, I can have any girl on the planet. I am not sticking with this one. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Angelina Jolie would say, well, why would you leave me? And I would turn to Angelina Jolie and say, why would you think he would stay? He didn't stay with Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know part of the reason that he broke up with Jennifer Aniston was he didn't want kids. Well, first of all, if he's shallow, he's not going to stay with you because you got old, right? Number two, he's not going to stay with you. He said he didn't want kids. You had 6 kids.
He didn't want kids with her.
Well, but, and again, you know, back with the Eagles analogy, not only did they have their own kids, but they adopted kids. You see what I'm saying? They're pulling them out of Vietnam. I'm bringing an extra kid. Before he met Angelina Jolie, do you think there was any woman on the earth besides Angelina Jolie that Brad Pitt would have adopted kids with? From Vietnam, from the jungles of Vietnam. No. Because Angelina Jolie was so hot, he's like, you want to adopt a kid from the sub-Saharan desert in Africa? Let's do that.
You know what's funny? Wasn't she... Was she married to Billy Bob Thornton?
I don't know if she was.
But they were a couple, right?
Yes, they were a couple.
Isn't that hard to believe?
Yes. Because that's when I didn't like her. Once she got with Billy Bob, I'm like, holy cow, right? And her, like, they met at Mr. and Mrs. Smith when they did that movie.
Who did?
Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Okay.
That's when both their careers were on the downward trend. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people, they get older, they become better actors. You know what I mean? It's like, you're known for being actors, and I don't want to see any movies with you two in them anymore. And I've told you this story before on Beacon of Speech. I used to love Robin Williams. When Robin Williams was on, when he was on Mork and Mindy, he was one of my favorite actors, right? And then he started to do crappier stuff. He did Patch Adams. I'm like, I hate Robin Williams. And now that's unpopular to say, but I only know him from being an actor. I don't know him. Maybe he was a good guy out, you know, off camera. Ted is shaking his head.
Again.
But so, yeah, I wanted to bring that up because...
No, but for whatever reason, I don't know that much about, like, Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie because I really haven't seen many of their movies.
See, I saw a lot of Brad Pitt movies because I used to be a big fan of his. And but I don't hate him. You know, like I said, Robin Williams, at some point I started to hate him. I don't feel the same way about Brad Pitt. I just didn't like him as much. I'm like, you know what? And as a guy, again, say the whole world has 6 billion women in it. And you have to rank them from 1 to 3 billion, right? And say Angelina Jolie really is the most beautiful. I'm not saying she is. I'm just saying hypothetically. I kind of understand why Brad Pitt would be like, okay, we're going to do whatever you say. We're going to talk to the UN. We're going to adopt those kids and whatever you say. I literally have the hottest girl on the whole planet. Right? But now that you're not the hottest girl on the whole planet, he didn't marry you because you were the UN spokesman. So when these people come out, and that's what aggravated me about it, when, like, I think the article was on the Daily Beast, and the article was, "Is Love Dead?" And I'm like, what those two had was not love. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny? Remember a few months ago when on People magazine, Jennifer Aniston, what did they say? Most beautiful woman.
Most beautiful person alive, yes.
It's like the most beautiful person alive just happens to be a famous actor.
Yeah. So
did they look through all 6 billion people and they narrowed it down to her?
First of all, I don't think People magazine went to Asia. Okay, they cut out the Chinese. They're like, oh, there's no Chinese person. Okay, People's already being racist. They cut out the Chinese, and then he said there's nobody in Russia. Boom, right? So now, what about South America? No, there's no hot people in South America, right? So they probably narrowed it down to Africa, America, or Europe. And then they didn't go to, like, all these universities. They didn't go to all these hospitals. They didn't say, oh, well, who's the hottest nurse? They didn't even go to the Miss America pageant. They're like, no, 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 that's a different kind of pageant, right? They went straight to actors and actresses, right? Because that's what people know.
Yeah.
They didn't do a scientific study. They did who's the most beautiful person on TV, or, you know, they didn't even find these good-looking... Every once in a while you see these really good-looking girls on local TV. They weren't checking out, you know, the Omaha weather girl.
Yeah.
Who can we name the hottest person in the world, but narrow it down to we can sell magazines by naming them hottest person in the world, #1 actress on TV or movies? You know what I mean? And again, it doesn't have anything to do with being the hottest person in the world. It's about selling magazines.
But you do remember what the actual phrase was. The most beautiful...
Most beautiful person, yes. It wasn't hottest. It was most beautiful.
Most beautiful person.
Yeah. So and again, maybe Jennifer Aniston is, because I don't want to berate her. Maybe she is. I'm just saying, I don't think People did an exhaustive search. Like, they hired 100 reporters, and they said, you're going out to all parts of the world. I want you to cover TV. I want you to look at movies. I want you to look at hospitals. I want you to go in the business world. I want you to go to South America. I want you to go in the jungles and look for the hottest person in the world and come back with who you got. Or the most beautiful person in the world. I found this person in Croatia, and they said that they did more charity work than anybody, and the best of all is that she's a son of a, you know, Croatian mayor. And get out of here with that girl. She's not the most beautiful person in the world.
It's just funny because, you know, people probably just assume whoever the 2 or 3 or 4 people running for president, that those are the most qualified people to lead the country.
Yeah.
But they're not.
No. And I see almost every day for the last month online, somebody puts up a meme. It says, these are the 2 most qualified people. No. No. And that's what's wrong. Everybody's like, oh, America's, you know, make America great again. All these slogans about America. If America was what the founding fathers meant it to be, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump would not be running. It has been corroded by special interests and corporations. That's why I'm a libertarian. Now, Ted could turn around and say, take that libertarian crap and shove it back up your pie hole. But I'm telling you, if the system worked, you would not get those 2 people. Okay? You know, Black Lives Matter, they're rioting in Charlotte this week, and we've barely even talked about that. Okay? Because, again, if the system worked, right, there wouldn't be riots. But it's not because of what Black Lives Matter says. Now, don't get me wrong, and we talked about this in Beacon of Speech maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Jello Biafra was saying, he's the lead singer of the Dead Kennedys, he said in the 80s, he said it on one of his spoken word albums, there's police brutality. Police are shooting the urban poor in the 80s. Okay? They're shooting white trash, they're shooting punks, they're shooting black people. He was saying that 30 years ago. He said, you need to become the media, take video of your police doing this stuff. This is not brand new stuff. But all of a sudden, now it's part of the agenda. Now, policemen should not be doing that, but it's like any other walk of life. There's good policemen, there's bad policemen, right? Black Lives Matter, they've gone too far the other way. And me and you have, I know I've said this on the show, you can't have the criminals, you have to err in the way of law and order.
Yeah.
But is the system working 100%? No, it's not. But I've been hearing about this for 30 years. But 30 years ago, it wasn't popular to talk about. When Jello Biafra was talking about it, it wasn't part of the agenda. Now it's part of the agenda.
Well, once again, talking about those shootings,
Right.
the police shootings. The videos that I've seen, I can't tell anything from.
No.
I mean, I literally have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, when I see those, I'm like, I don't know what happened.
They release a 50-second clip, right? They release a 50-second clip, and I'm like, I can't tell who's right. I still can't tell who's right. Like the guy who's walking backwards in Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. And you would think in a constitutional democracy, right, that you don't want anarchy, you want to err on the side of caution, right? Black Lives Matter only care about black lives. Now they said, oh no, you don't. Jello Biafra is talking about police, and again, this is going back 30 years ago. He was talking about punks in the cities getting beat up by the cops and getting killed by the cops. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. I find that hard to believe, because what happens is, because it's not part of the narrative is white cop shoots black guy, right? But that's not all that happens. And again, if you had mayors, and again, Fred in his simplistic worldview, if mayors took their budgets and say, the first thing we're going to do is pay for police, and we're going to get all the police and all the law and order stuff first, everything else comes last, you wouldn't have stressed out cops because they were shorthanded. You see what I'm saying? You are handcuffing the cops. And then if you have a stressed out cop, well, whose fault is it? It's the city's fault, because they don't have the right amount of cops. Well, Black Lives Matter says there's too many cops. No, there's not too many cops. If you are in a crime-riddled city, your number one priority should be safety.
Now, I don't know how deep you wanted to get into this, but like the Charlotte, we'll just focus, because there was...
Just on Charlotte, right?
Yeah, we'll just focus on Charlotte. Do you know... I assume they pulled that guy over, right?
Yes.
Do you know why they pulled him over?
No. And then some people say he does have a gun. And the right-winger said he had a gun. And the left-winger said, no, we don't have a gun. At the end of the day, how are you going to police your city without policemen?
See, one of the things I'm saying is that I need a hell of a lot more information than we have right now before I make a judgment on who's...
And that goes back to how we started the show. When there was terrorism, within 12 hours, Donald Trump is pounding his hand on the table, right? Okay? Terrorism. Within 12 hours of that guy in Charlotte, white cop shot black guy, let's burn the city down. And they're like, wait, we're still looking at the video, because it fit the narrative. Just like now, I'm going to switch gears on you, okay? Because the policemen I don't understand what people I don't understand what people don't understand about policemen have a hard job.
Yeah.
Okay? If you don't support the policemen, there are no policemen. There is no law and order. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was a black pastor. Okay? And he had his hands up. The first guy came and said, hold up. And the black pastor said, listen, I'm a black man. I didn't do anything. My hands are up. Lady cop comes running up.
That guy was a pastor?
He was a pastor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She comes running up. Holy cow, you flinch. Bang, 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 bang. Shot him dead. He's dead. Okay? She is 100% in the wrong. She just had an itchy trigger finger. She was a bad cop. And she is charged with murder. It is black and white. Clear as day. Okay? She mucked up bad. Right?
Now, where did they get the video? That video, where was that from? Was that from a dash cam?
There was a dash cam and a police helicopter. There was 2 videos.
See, and I think what makes people more angry is that, yeah, sure, now in this day and age, you have video, but what about all the decades where we were telling you,
right,
and there was no video to back us up?
Right. And that's what I was trying to say when I was talking about Jello Biafra. I'm not saying the system was perfect, but I'm saying you can't burn the cities down.
Yeah.
You have to go case by case.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it's on the line, tie goes to the cops. Because the cops have a hard job. That girl in Tulsa is like anything else. Okay?
See, but even what I saw in that, I still couldn't make a determination from what I saw on that because it didn't look clear to me.
Well, that's because
I see the guy go by like the side of, I guess, his car.
Right.
And I didn't know if he reached into his car.
No, he's just standing there.
Okay, I couldn't see that.
Yeah. So, it's just like any other job. Look, let's pick any other job in the world. Okay, not cop. Okay, garbage man. There's bad garbage men out there, right? If there's no garbage men, my things are never going to get picked up, okay? What the policemen need to do is they need to say, listen, that was a bad cop. They deserved to be penalized. Now, we'll use the garbage man example. Garbage man gets drunk. He throws the can in the thing. He's not even paying attention. He runs over a kid, right? That garbage man should be put in jail. The garbage union should not come out and say, well, you know what? He's got a high-stress job. He had to pull 200 garbage cans that day, blah, 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 right? If they are blatantly in the wrong, they have to say, you are 100% in the wrong. You have to face the consequences, just like the garbage man who got drunk and ran over a kid because he wasn't paying attention in his garbage truck. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's where the policemen seem to lose people. But it's the same thing with doctors. Doctors mess up. They don't want to get sued. The hospitals circle the wagon because they don't want a lawsuit. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I've read an article, again, it was on one of the libertarian websites. The people who should be most mad at police shootings are policemen. Because bad policemen make good policemen look bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And where me and you used to work together. How many times did I yell about the weakest link who literally couldn't do his job and dropped tape? We had a guy, we won't name his name, but he dropped data tapes in the front yard. He literally dropped them out in the front yard of a business, delivered roll carts, literally hundreds of tapes to the wrong businesses. And we would complain about it, and they're like, well, what are you going to do? He didn't mess up bad enough to get... Well, one day he's going to do something that's going to get him fired, and you protected him. Are you going to take the responsibility for protecting him? Oh, no, then we'll fire him. Well, maybe you should have fired him when you knew he was a bad worker. It's the same thing with the cops. But the whole Black Lives Matter, again, Jello Biafra was talking about it in the 80s. Black Lives Matter does not care about the punk kids going down to their local punk show in the bad part of town. They don't. That's the problem. Black Lives Matter thinks that the cops are going out and killing black people, period. Mm-hmm. Just because they're bored. I find it very hard to believe. I do not agree with that narrative. I find that hard to believe that any cop feels that way. Right?
The reason I'm laughing is because you brought up a few months ago about, who was it? Beyonce.
Yeah.
Was somewhere like what, at a show or something, and she yelled out, "Stop killing us."
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny if, like, when she yelled that out, somebody in the crowd yelled out, "Take off your top." Just completely disregard.
Yeah, because what's happening is these cops are getting stressed out You know, and all they're seeing is crime all day long, every day, every week, every year. You compounded 8 years for every time that cop got kicked in the groin, every time he got spit on, every time he got punched. And they're all criminals, and then all of a sudden they have, you know, the itchy trigger finger.
Yeah.
And it doesn't... Now, maybe some of them, maybe they are racist, right? But they did not come to the job. They did not say, I want to be a cop to kill black people. Okay? Now, maybe after they've been on the job and they're working, and we'll use the city of Cleveland, maybe after they've worked on the city of Cleveland and they've been punched 20 times by black people, 15 times they got spit on by black people, and they're getting spit on by more black people than white people, it's the same way that I prejudice against Serbians, because when I played soccer, they were all a-holes to me. And that stuck. Maybe cops became prejudiced over time. But they did not come to... And then
that's the thing. The bad people in an area make it harder on everybody.
Right.
They make it harder on the good people in that area because the people who are trying to enforce the law, they don't know how to distinguish between, you know, when you're pulling up on somebody.
Right.
You don't know, is this a drug dealer or a, you know, gangbanger, or is this some guy who just forgot to put his turn signal on?
Right. And now let's, because I just looked at the clock, we're gonna have to tie this up. Let's use LeBron James. Okay. LeBron James is probably going to be a billionaire, right? And by all accounts, for a professional athlete, he's great. He's great on the court. He's great off the court. He gives back. He gives kids in inner city Akron bikes every year, right? And even though he still lives in Akron, technically he lives in the suburb of Akron, right? He is not living where he grew up.
Yeah.
Right? As soon as he made his money, he got out of where he grew up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And again, Sister Teresa, or Saint Teresa now, she would go back into the slums of Calcutta and say, these are my people, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of people's arguments are, if you live in the bad neighborhood, instead of growing up in the bad neighborhood, doing better, and then leaving, you should reinvest in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Now, that's a bad argument, and I've heard Rush Limbaugh say that, right? Now, if I grew up in a bad neighborhood, I would not want to reinvest in that neighborhood. I would want to get away from the neighborhood. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you say, now, Fred, you're a horrible person, just like LeBron James. But it goes back to, you know, what's good, what's bad. Everything is a narrative. Everything is an angle. Nothing is real. Why doesn't LeBron James... Oh, LeBron James pours money, but he's not rebuilding Akron. You know, he says he loves Akron. He's got $1 billion. He's not rebuilding Akron. It's nice, but he's doing more than most people do. You know, it's nice that he gives the poor kids bikes. It is. But whether it's LeBron James or Angelina Jolie or Princess Diana, it's all the look at me moment. And you do nice things to feel good about yourself, but you're not solving the root problem. Giving kids bikes and Akrons doesn't solve the problem. In LeBron's defense, he does not come off like Angelina Jolie or Princess Di. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But again, Black Lives Matter, they don't have it right either. I have never met a cop who said, I want to be a cop so I can kill black people. That's never happened.
Yeah.
And I want Black Lives Matter. I challenge them to come on, making a speech. I want you to bring me the cop that says, I joined the force to kill black people.
Honestly, being a cop in those areas, I think it is almost the last thing I'd want to do.
Yeah. And if anything... You should be happy.
When I
Thank
say
you
that,
for policing our neighborhoods.
Yeah, when I say that, I mean, thank God there's guys who want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do it.
You cannot pay me. Fred Hunt, I want you to be a cop.
But that doesn't mean that I think everything the cops do is right.
And I agree.
They make mistakes.
And I agree. And that's why your number one priority should be fixing police departments. Not everything else, and then the last line of the spreadsheet is police departments. But Black Lives Matter doesn't... If I told Black Lives Matter to solve cops so they're not so stressed out is to give you more cops, they'd be like, oh, no, we don't want more cops.
We got enough problems with the ones we had.
Yeah. That is the solution. Now, the libertarians would say that's not the solution. Okay? But it's like any other job. If you have a problem, you put more manpower on solving the problem. You don't want stressed out people. Just like the garbage men. You don't want stressed out garbage men driving over your kids in the streets.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like, I know a lot of the complaints are we get harassed.
Right.
And one thing I do know is that it doesn't take much for you to start feeling harassed.
Yes.
You know, if you get pulled over a few times and you didn't do anything wrong, it starts getting on your nerves.
Ted, I put it in my book, 2011's American Suicide. I felt harassed by the cops. I'm white. It was because I had a crappy beat-up car. I drove in neighborhoods where there are a lot of drug dealers because I worked at Taco Bell till 3 in the morning, and they would pull me over for BS reasons all the time.
Yeah.
And I would be nice to them, hello, officer. And if I didn't have a good reason for... First question on their lips, why are you out at 3 a.m.? Because I work at Taco Bell. I work till 3 a.m. Then they'd be cool with me, okay? Well, if you're out at 3 a.m., they're like, I'm just drinking and getting high and shooting heroin. Well, of course the cops are going to harass you. You know how many times cops ask me, why are you out at 3 a.m.?
But what if you were out at 3 a.m., and you weren't working, but you also weren't doing anything wrong? Well, what, you're not allowed to be out at 3 a.m.?
Well, but see, you make a perfect point. But people act like, you know, we're the only ones.
And the thing is that I'll defend them also if they're looking for somebody and your car matches the description, then I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But if they're just like, look at that car, I'm just going to pull that over because I don't like the looks of that car.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's...
Well, just so you know, Ted, you are right. I'm just saying, how many times did I get asked, what are you doing at 3 in the morning? A minimum of 8 times in my life, a cop wanted to know what I was doing at 8. I'm like, you know, I want to swear. I want to say, hey, idiot, I'm wearing my Taco Bell uniform. I'm not doing it for my health. I don't tool around asking people in their neighborhoods if they want tacos. Right? But I understood that the cops had a job to do and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But you're right. They should be. That's one of the, you know, we always talk about beacon of speech, the Second Amendment, right? What's the illegal search or seizure for the cops? Is that the Fourth Amendment?
I'm not sure.
You have to have probable cause. You can't just pull people over. And so if the guy that I follow, the libertarian guy that I follow, he'd be yelling at me right now. He'd be like, Fred, as important as freedom of speech is, I said second, I meant First Amendment, I'm sorry. He said as important as the First Amendment is for freedom of speech is as important as no illegal search and seizure for the cops.
Well, you know what's funny? Like when I read like police blotters,
right?
A lot of times a car was pulled over because of an illegal lane change.
Right.
I assume that means you didn't use your signal.
Use your turn signal.
How can anybody ever prove that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In other words,
they
might say that.
Anybody didn't use
they might say, you know what, I'm pretty sure that guy has drugs.
Yeah.
So he didn't use a signal. Maybe he did use a signal.
Right. But then again, we're going back to, and again, if it's not the Fourth Amendment, I apologize. But one of the amendments say no illegal search or seizure. Like I said, the libertarians would be all over that. They'd be like, that's why cops can't just pull you over.
Yeah. No, it really is. It's a fine line.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's the whole thing. All these people
because you want the cops because you need them.
You have to have them. You can't not have them.
At the same time, you don't want them harassing people.
Yeah. And that's why you got to have a system to get rid of the bad cops, and you have to support the good cops. Okay, Ted, we are way past where I had to go today. I want to thank you for listening to Beacon of Speech. Ted, I want to thank you for doing it with me, because I will tell you what, I am crabby as the day is long today. I don't know if it came across that day, but while we were talking, my hand, I kept looking at my hand. Like I was mad at my hand that it was bleeding. So anyhow, one last thing. The song of the day is Crashland by Authority Zero. I love that song. I've been listening to that song all week. No songs by the Eagles for you, Ted Coley.